And I bottle it away, and then nobody has to know, exactly what's going on beneath the surface.
Well, I'm happy you feel that way, I guess.
All the time, every time. But anyways, enough about that. Enough about me. This is a podcast. At least that's what I've been told by my constituents. So I've been forced to come out here on stage to let you all know that. This is Pixel Loadout podcast episode number, I believe, 13. This is in the corner. For October 14th, 2015. I'm your host, Kevin Harrison. With me, I've got my two regular cohorts.
Hey, Trey Figo here.
Hey, Trey. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Just reading over some stuff. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I've just been, I guess, enjoying my days off a little bit before I have to go get back to work, as well as try to set up a bunch of logistics and stuff around all the stuff that we do and trying to advance it further into the future, along with my other regular cohort.
Miguel Torres.
How are you doing, Miguel?
I'm doing well. Just a lot of learning coding.
Fun.
It's like I'm learning all this for a special project we have.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if we'll divulge that at some point soon, I suppose, once we're a little bit more comfortable and on board with it. But yes, lots of wheels being turned and lots of choices being made behind the scenes, behind this background right here. Lots of secret, awesome stuff, but you can't see it yet. Not yet. Just be behind that. You guys are on like fall break right now, or just or I guess you just got back to school, right?
As of yesterday, it ended yesterday.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Had class today.
Well, I guess you have to do that at some point, you being a student and whatnot. What'd you guys do with your time off?
Let's see. There were some Heroes of the Storm, as there so often is in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Destiny has been a thing. And I went on Tuesday to watch The Martian with you.
That's right. We went and go see Matt Damon get stranded out in Arkansas or something like that on a soundstage where they faked the whole thing. Because little did you know that that movie is based on real life events. At least that's what most of the populace thinks.
Loosely based on true events.
Mm-hmm.
Loosely.
It was a good movie.
But I was thinking, like, what if that was the prequel to the opening cinematic of Destiny?
Oh, and then, well, I mean, yeah, they decided to send out 2 more astronauts there.
They're working on Mars.
What you're saying is the Traveler is Matt Damon.
Why would... I guess he did travel a bit.
There you go. You been playing anything else, I guess, besides the regular standard?
No, just studying.
Mm-hmm. Trey, what about you?
Wait, I'm a liar.
Okay.
I've been playing a whole bunch of Super Meat Boy.
Oh, really?
I'm on like the 5th world.
Okay, so that game sort of grabbed you then, huh? For one of the PlayStation Plus things?
It grabbed me by the balls and threw them into the blender. That game is stressful.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that it restarts like instantly helps a lot.
I know, like if it weren't for that, that game would be not that great.
You know what game doesn't do that and sort of made me not like it as much? Mirror's Edge.
I was gonna say The Order 1886.
No, that actually starts out it'll kill you pretty quickly and then get you back into the action, I want to say. Or no, I'm thinking of Last of Us, because it always does those cuts to black every time that you die, and I think that it's actually artfully done.
That's just how Uncharted does it.
Mm-hmm. Trey, though, what about you? What did you do with your time off?
Well, I ended up actually going to Carowinds.
That's fun, I guess.
That was a good time.
I haven't been to Carowinds since I was in high school.
Yeah, we went there. We got on the that new-ish Fury 325 coaster there. I ended up riding that like 3 times. That was a good day.
Mm-hmm.
Then I've been playing Blood Bowl, and I also decided, Blood Bowl 2, and I also decided to buy Party Hard, and I played a little bit of that.
Party Hard. That's the one where you're like a psycho killer going across the United States. And,
yeah, going to parties because you just wanted to go to bed.
It's got
but those parties are just too loud.
It's got like an 8-bit retro style, and then some way too dramatic like police procedural reading between chapters.
Yes.
Yeah, and then does some roguelike elements. I just summed up the entire game. It's a weird game.
It's been a good time. It's all right so far. It can be a little frustrating every once in a while, though.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, I feel like you're very much at the mercy of how a level typically resets, and then what kind of path you can go to quiet down that party by whatever means necessary.
Yeah, definitely. They're because sometimes you'll have certain traps around, sometimes you won't, sometimes certain events will be going on. It's like the same general room layout, just different things can be in those rooms.
Mm-hmm. As for me, like Miguel, it's mostly Destiny and Hearthstone have been the things that have been sucking up my time right now. I got to mess around with the Star Wars Battlefront beta that just recently got extended today, or I guess yesterday. That is some Star Wars looking video gaming right there. Like, the game looks really good and it sounds really good. Like the lasers sound like they should in a Star Wars property, and that John Williams score keeps popping in every time something dramatic happens, and so that's really great.
But how does it feel?
I mean, it feels like a Battlefield game, I guess. You run around, you shoot stuff, and then you die by not getting shot by only a few times. There are interesting wrinkles. You don't reload, for example. Your guns don't have ammunition. They'll just overheat at some point because they're laser guns. But there's a quick time event thing where you can reload stuff faster by injecting coolant into the gun if you time it right. Otherwise, you end up burning your hands. Jump packs are fun. If you play the single-player mode, Stormtroopers can't hit anything, just like real life, and the Hoth level is incredibly unbalanced against the Rebels. So all in all, it feels like Star Wars. Although, if you're playing as the Rebels on that Hoth level, it is not a lot of fun to play. Imperials seem to always win that, but there's another mode that's included in there that's much more balanced. It's just point control stuff. So, I don't know. I feel like that game is going to have a lot of modes, though, to justify a $60 price point. So,
well, it's not even a $60 price point. It's $60 price point and a $50 season pass.
Right. And
the season pass is the cost of another game.
Yeah, and I'm supposing those are adding. I want to say they said they were going to put things from Force Awakens in there.
I wonder if they'll be dumb enough to put maps with that.
Yeah, because there's no better way to fragment your multiplayer community than by doing that. At the same time, I don't know what else they sell, unless it's extra classes or something. I mean,
skins,
new heroes.
Heroes.
It's supposed to be like a Princess Leia hero thing.
Play as Boba Fett, Jango Fett, Jar Jar Binks, something.
What is the new droid called? BB-8? Yeah, roll around everywhere, just throwing your balls in people's faces.
They showed off like spoilers from the toys, and he has a stun arm apparently. So, spoilers. Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing feels really polished, though. It's the UI design has a really nice minimalist kind of feel to it that does a really good job of showing off Star Wars designs and such in a very unobtrusive and sort of. It's the same way that Forza shows off cars in sort of a car porny kind of way, and that it just sort of revels in its own design. And
ooh, look how shiny it is.
Look how Star Warsy. Like it all feels very cohesive. So, and to be fair, I feel like we haven't had what's the last big Star Wars game that any of us have played that was a new release? Was it
the Old Republic?
I guess there's the Old Republic, and then before that was it was the
Force Awakens 2?
Was it not Force Awakens 2? No, what was the one with the Secret Apprentice? Is that on Force Unleashed and Force Unleashed 2? That's what those.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Well, that's Force Awakens.
Force Awakens is the new movie that's coming out. Yeah. I feel like it's been a while since, and I guess Old Republic is. I don't know. It seems like it came and went. And I mean, I know it's still going on, and I think they have a big expansion going on, but it's been a while since we've gotten even like a cash-in Star Wars title. So, but this all seemed very. I don't know. I'm more optimistic about it now that I've actually played it. So, there's that. But anyways, let's get down to it. Some new stuff. Am I the only one right now that plays Hearthstone on occasion, I assume?
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
That game is not very friendly to newer players.
Not as much as it used to be on release, considering now you have a larger card pool you have to chase against. Although,
And even at release, it was still mildly aggressive because it gave a lot of the advantage to the people that were playing in beta and alpha.
I mean, there was a full reset before that ended up happening.
But those players still had that currency they could invest.
Yeah, but they wanted you to buy packs during the beta to be able to transfer it over. I mean, the game still offers stuff that you can do without having to be top tier competitive and still bringing enough currency that you could conceivably get in. But being able to get up to legendary rank and compete at top tier, that is going to take a while longer. There are ways about it, though. Anyways, the reason I bring this up is that there's a pretty big patch coming in for a certain style of deck right now. The way Hearthstone is divvied up is that there are 9 different hero classes you can play as. Each class has their own unique cards as well as hero abilities that help define play strats. One of the decks right now that's really big in the competitive scene on the warrior side is called Patron Warrior, which is this deck that sort of got introduced with one of the adventure expansions. There's this card called Grim Patron. It's got 3 attack, 3 health. If it takes damage, it splits off and clones itself, essentially. And Warrior has ways of dealing 1 damage to everything on the board, including your side. So you end up making lots and lots of dwarves. And then one other card called Warsong Commander, which gives all of your minions that have 3 attack or less charge, which is haste in Magic terms. They're changing one of these cards, the Warsong Commander, so that your 3 attack minions don't get charge anymore. It's now your hasty charge minions get +1 attack. So that cuts down on this deck's kill potential of making a lot of little guys on the board and then charging in with all one big combo. Go ahead and I'll note that this is not a combo that would happen on turn 1, 2, or 3. You had to survive up till 6, 7, or 8 before you could quote unquote go off, and even then there's a large amount of variance there. This also was a combo deck that was actually not that expensive to put together. It was very newbie friendly. Actually, one of the people ended up playing it. So this is not the first time that Blizzard has done this, but it's still pretty notable that this was a very popular warrior deck, and it is interesting the idea of being able to issue quick erratas to a card game. Like, players of Magic, this is something that Magic does very rarely on occasion, is that they will hotfix cards and give them new rules text in order to either break up strategies that are not good in the meta or limit cards, etc., etc. It doesn't happen so much in the standard environment. But
they're much more likely to just outright restrict or ban a card than they are to actually change the rules text on a card.
Yeah.
Down to it.
I mean, there was a card that was banned, like, I think in extended or modern, like 3 months after it came out. Mm-hmm. The one where it's like the blue thing where you can sacrifice 2 HP instead to cast it, and it
yeah, from that Phyrexian set, unless you
with that counter for Phyrexian blue.
Yeah. No, was it?
Not a counter spell. It's like the Deep Delve or something. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, so I mean that's one of the interesting things with the physical limitation is that obviously just banning the card outright is better than saying, hey, this card operates differently, but still that'll happen on occasion.
Mostly because you have to issue a reprint if
right.
you change the rules text.
Mm-hmm. But it's interesting that this is one of those things where a digital card game in the space being able to do a hotfix to everybody's card set is design. It lets you mess around with design stuff if it becomes a problem on a much more frequent basis. Granted, you could have the knock-on effect of people when they get their cards feeling like the things that they have are devalued. Typically, when Blizzard does this with a card, they will make it so that you can disenchant the card for the total cost of what it costs to create it, because that's the only way that you get cards in this game. You can't trade them. You have to either open them randomly or you get enough of the secondary currency dust to be able to just be able to put the card into your collection. So I don't know. What are your guys like? What are your thoughts on the idea of being able to quickly hotfix a card game?
How much does it really affect the meta with this deck in particular? How big of a problem was it? Did it matter for them to actually do this? Those are all questions I would ask about it, but at the same time, when it comes right down to it, this is a digital card game, and it's not like you have to put real money into it, so I don't see a problem with it, in all honesty. And just build a different deck that also works.
Yep. I mean, that's probably this was, like I said, very representative of this class at high levels of play, and like I said, apparently they thought it was just a bit too strong, or he was probably seeing. I'm curious looking at the metrics, how you decide that we need to hit something in this deck's toolkit so that it is not as highly represented. This deck can still go on in some form. It's just not as lethal. I don't know. What do you think, Miguel?
I mean, I don't care. I don't really play Hearthstone. The only thing that I would take issue with is that it's basically changing the card completely. Like, it's not the same card at all.
Nope.
And so that's probably if they were to nerf it, I think that they should increase the cost of the card, or maybe reduce the effectiveness of the ability and not just change the ability, because that just makes it a different card.
Pretty much, yeah.
I don't care. I don't play Hearthstone. So.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we covered this and talked about it. Let's go to, I guess, something a little bit more in flavor with the holiday here. Who likes Friday the 13th?
I love Thanksgiving. I mean, what?
Okay. Trey, what about you? This seems like
movie. I like the movie. All right.
Which one?
Well, I don't know. The first two are probably the better ones. As it goes, it gets odd. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not.
I don't know. I liked it when Jason went to space.
Like they're still worth. Right? Even the bad ones are still worth a watch, even if they're bad.
Jason X.
I never saw the remake, like reboot that was coming out from the Platinum Dunes companies. But anyways, Friday the 13th is getting a new game. This is worth noting that the last Friday the 13th game was on the NES. I'm fairly certain.
Oof, that one.
Yeah.
That's a game.
It is. But it's worth noting this is so this game is being developed by Gun Media and Randy Greenback, who I've never actually heard of before. Apparently they are an indie dev of some kind, though. And it's going to be an asymmetrical multiplayer game. It is going to be 1 versus 7, essentially. One person plays Jason, and everybody else plays camp counselors.
That's interesting. I was looking at it a bit and had like a kind of a class system for the counselor you can pick, or at least that was an idea they have.
Yeah, they're going with the horror archetypes of you have like the jock, the edgy guy, the last girl, that kind of thing. And they all have different sort of abilities or statistics. But obviously Jason himself is OP and is just looking to take out the counselors, while the counselors are just looking to escape.
I would be interested if this game was kind of like played a little like the indie horror game where you had to look away from the person.
Which, you mean Slender?
Slender Man?
One of the Slender games. Yeah, Slender is one of the ones where you lose if you look at the guy.
Yeah, like not so much that mechanic, but the whole you never know when he's going to pop up.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just completely cut off from any kind of information of where he could be, and then all of a sudden he's just there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I would if that were the case, kind of like the Hunger Games of the horror world.
Well, but this sort of reminds me a lot of actually is Evolve a little bit of asymmetrical multiplayer.
So what you're saying is that they're just this whole thing is just the new hero or the new monster for Evolve.
Well, except that the counselors aren't going around and wielding guns, and the other thing is that the counselors don't necessarily have to cooperate. One of the examples they put out in the video, for example, is that you can get the parts to put together a boat to ride out on the lake and get away, but the boat only has room for 2, so groups can work together, and then you can take the boat out by yourself and just leave people behind in order to survive.
It's like that thing where it's like you have a cabbage, a goat, and a wolf, and you have to get across the river.
Don't put the psycho killer on the boat. Turns out he kills everybody. That's a bad choice.
So put him on the boat with the cabbage.
It's worth noting this game started out as being called Slasher Volume 1 Summer Camp, It was the same asymmetrical 1v7 without the Friday the 13th license, and they were actually approached after the early prototyping of it to be able to take this character and sort of, instead of just being a homage, actually make it a official licensed product. So I think I already said before that this is being done through Kickstarter, and they're getting a lot of people that are vets from the actual movies themselves. Like they've got Sean Cunningham, who is the original creator of the Friday the 13th series. Tom Savini, if you're any kind of horror fan, he's probably done the blood and the guts for your horror movies. He's done some acting stuff too. Like he's in what's the Rodriguez film that he worked on with Tarantino? Until Dawn? Not Until Dawn. That's the game. From Dusk Till Dawn. Is that the one?
Vampire flick?
Yeah. Well, the thing that starts out as a robbery flick with Clooney, and then turns into a vampire like halfway through. Yeah, he's in that. He's I can't remember. He's the biker who's got the pistol in his pants. Anyways, lots of horror legends, including what's it? Manfredini, the guy who did the music for Friday the 13th as well.
Oh wait, go on.
And they're asking for $700,000 for the project. So
I'd like to see how it ends up. Like this is.
Well, this launched yesterday, and they're currently at $300,000 or $310,000. So, based on that trajectory, it seems like they are well in line. They only have 97 backers. No, I'm sorry, 5,000 backers. My bad.
If they could make each volume be a different game design with a different villain.
I don't think the volume thing applies anymore. I'm pretty sure that this is just Friday the 13th now.
Okay. It'd be interesting if Slasher Volume 1 was Friday the 13th, Slasher Volume 2 was, I don't know.
It was Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street, all these other things, Pinhead, and...
Yeah, you could just do different horror icons. What is the other thing?
You could not do Pinhead. It wouldn't work.
It'd be interesting to see how...
That's not how... It's not a slasher. Pinhead, you got to solve the box.
I'm not talking about it being that each volume is a slasher volume. That each volume was a different trope of the horror genre.
I guess if you put it that way, then it could work. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a Pinhead game would be more like one of those solved how do you get out of the room games.
Yeah.
And if you make it wrong, suddenly you're got chains coming out of the wall and. I don't know. It turns into that sadomasochist bondage thing that all of those Hellraiser movies ended up being.
So you know who else is trying to get into the Kickstarter game?
Who?
Square Enix.
Big surprise.
Are
we skipping around on this stuff?
No, it's the next one.
Actually, you're right. It is the next one. All right.
So yeah, so Square Enix, they just got done with one pseudo Kickstarter campaign, which ended up in flames. The whole Deus Ex thing. Where they were doing the pre-order campaign that had Kickstarter functions do it with the milestones.
It's the gamification of pre-orders.
But the thing is, they weren't the only company that were doing it. Namco Bandai is doing the exact same thing for Tales of Zestiria on Steam, but no one cares about that game.
Because nobody cares about Tales games. Tales games are still relatively underground. There's no two ways about it. At least over here in the States. I know they keep getting made like crazy over there.
But I feel that if people are going to get upset, they shouldn't get upset that a company is doing it. They should be upset that it's being done at all.
I'm pretty sure that's hasn't Zestiria already met all of its goals right now for pre-orders?
I mean, but that doesn't mean, that doesn't make the point any less.
Okay.
But, okay, so what Square Enix is trying to do, they're trying to get into the crowdfunding thing now. That with their localization process, basically saying if you really want some of our games that wouldn't otherwise get localized, you can crowdfund and pay for the localization yourselves.
Has there been any example about how much a localization project would cost?
I don't know. Like this, it varies from game to game because it's not simply translating a game. You have to interpret all of the symbology, all of the cultural significances of all those things in the game as well. So you need to take one joke from one culture and change it into a joke into the new culture and so on and so forth. So depending on how dense the game is, it can
Yeah, like if you want good localization, you don't have to
maybe
go that
you want
far.
bad localization.
Yeah, sometimes bad localization can be hilarious and bring much joy out of a game.
Still, I mean, once again, because every time I have to bring up an example with Suikoden here, I would assume that the next Suikoden game that started out in Japan and then came over here, you would rather have good localization over bad.
Oh, there's not going to be another Suikoden game. Let's
Okay.
be
Well, no,
honest.
there is another Suikoden game. It's just a mobile game.
Like Trey said, there's not another Suikoden game.
The pachinko game.
Oh, there you go. Oh, I was hearing some stuff about how pachinko actually works over in Japan, and it's a racket.
Oh,
Well,
massively so.
Yeah, just how it gets around gambling stuff. But
if you ever played Pokemon, and you remember in the very first Pokemon Red and Blue, you can go to the casino, and then you had to leave the casino and go next door to get your prize.
That's exactly how it's done with pachinko powers. You buy balls, then you win balls, and then you take the balls over someplace that will exchange them in a totally different building that's not related in order to get money. Or I think you get tokens, and then you take tokens somewhere else to do it.
But, I mean, digressing back to the article, probably the biggest series that they have that isn't regularly brought over to the West is most of the Dragon Quest games. Like Theater Rhythm Dragon Quest 11, and
there was a Dragon Quest game that just recently got released over here. It was the Warriors, or the
Dragon Quest Musho, like basically the Dynasty Warriors game, got released this week.
It's the same thing. Like it's the same sort of style that the Zelda got last year, I suppose, with the Hyrule Warriors.
It's the same. It's Omega Force.
Have you seen some of the streaming restrictions around that?
No, what are they?
No, so I think YouTube is fine with this, but Twitch, you can stream the game, but you can't do it with the music on, because if you do, it's going to get hit by copyright stuff due to the soundtrack that it has. A bunch of old classic Enix Dragon Warrior tracks.
You say on Twitch or YouTube?
No, on Twitch. It's fine on YouTube for whatever reason, but Twitch will get your stream, it'll get the audio blocked out completely. So if you want to stream it, you got to turn the music off.
I think that's the way that the Twitch stream works. They have a content match ID.
And it just blocks out 30 minutes, right?
Well, if it notices a song that you don't have the license to, or that is licensed, it will mute the entire game. Mm-hmm. But that normally happens not on live broadcasts, but on
VODs. They can't control the live broadcasts as well. And that's notable too. A lot of Twitch streamers will have different kinds of music streaming in the background when they're doing their live streams, which has always been kind of a gray area, all things considered. Anyways, I am curious about crowdfunding out localization. The classic example for me is a lot of the Project Win stuff that Nintendo had. It was having like fight tooth and nail to get Xenoblade over here, along with a few other games, just because they thought it wasn't going to be profitable to localize it. And granted, you actually have a lot of games now that come out in Europe that receive full English translations, but then they just don't make the extra step to bring it over to the U.S. But I don't know. This seems like it'd be nice. I can think of a bunch of games that would be nice to bring over from Japan to here.
I would rather have it and not want it than want it and not have it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's kind of like some people are saying that it's kind of a backwards way of thinking about it. Like, you're giving this company their money and they're translating the game and sending it over to whatever region you're in, but they're not going to be making that much more money because basically the install base has already purchased it since it's such a minor game. Mm-hmm. But my comment on that is it's less of a risk. Like, you are already guaranteeing that these people are buying the game rather than you localize it and it may not get purchased at all.
The fundamental play behind any kind of crowdsourcing is minimizing risk. The idea that if large corporations don't have to take on the burden and risk of funding a project, and you can instead spread that risk out among consumers before something even comes out, that much more likely something will end up happening. So and I mean, doesn't always pay off. We've talked about plenty of Kickstarters before that just seemingly took the money and run, or did not deliver on the vision that they've wanted to go for.
And this could potentially spill over into the speed of localizations of larger titled games. Like if they are making this kind of money for localization, then that would be a much more important aspect of the games.
And
maybe.
yeah, as long as the people that are paying into the crowdfunding are getting a copy of the game, then I don't see a problem at all with it. Honestly, it sounds like it might be a pretty good idea.
Cool. Yeah, I'm curious if we'll see any of Square Enix, because they've also done some stuff before about kickstarting projects with their IPs and things like that, but we haven't seen anything sort of come to fruition with that. So I'm curious what's on the horizon with that. Also, in relation with Square Enix right now, though, I think if you really want, just because they actually own the franchise now, I would just credit this more towards Ion Storm. There's a new Deus Ex mod that came out yesterday called Revision.
I saw this.
This is the original Deus Ex, and it's basically a complete overhaul and reworking of the game. It does a really large pass on textures in the game. It updates AI. It rebalances a bunch of stuff, including a lot of the augmentations. Does a bunch of bug fixes. Also gives you a bunch more resolution options in order to make the game much more playable, I'd say. The original Deus Ex Game of the Year edition I don't think has aged that well, and this is a pretty nice way into bringing it up to modern standards. I got a chance to play a little bit of this. I am still really bad at the original Deus Ex. I just was not around at the time to play it, and I can just say at least that it still looks really good, and I still think it's very much in the spirit of the original. The mod itself is completely free, and you need the original game to run it, but Deus Ex Game of the Year edition is like $1.39 on Steam right now, so it practically costs nothing. But the interesting part about this is that Square Enix actually came out and more or less officially endorsed it. They issued a statement in relation to the 15th year anniversary. Today, Square Enix and Eidos Montreal continue to celebrate the 15th anniversary of the release of the original Deus Ex by authorizing a fan-created mod for the first Deus Ex game, originally released in 2000, called Revision. The mod by Caustic Creative overhauls environments and soundtrack of the original Deus Ex and is available to download for free today on Steam. That's the statement. I think that's cool, but Square Enix more or less officially endorsed it, and obviously did not put out a cease and desist, considering how often they have put out cease and desist on fan projects in the past.
Because I specifically remember the Type 0 translation, and also that was it remade 3D version of Chrono Trigger.
That's
the
the
one
one.
getting kiboshed by them before.
I can remember seeing the screens and the videos for that way back in the day. It looked so good, and it was such a shame that it got quashed. But
I mean, I can't blame them for doing it. Like with them having to defend their IP, and also they were then like Type 0, they were already working on an HD remake.
To some degree, I suppose, but I mean, at the same time, if they were gonna like quash that project for Chrono Trigger, or
But the thing about Chrono Trigger is that it was more than just a graphical update. It was changing the foundation of the game design.
I guess. I don't know. We never got to see any actual gameplay of it, though. It was all just test 3D model stuff. I just wish there was a new Chrono Trigger game. How about that? The last one we got was a remake of the DS, which added a few little extra things, but did not, and sort of linked Chrono Trigger to Chrono Cross, but that's about it.
Well,
but this mod
cool though. Yeah, this is something that could get me to go back and play that game all the way through, because I've never fully beaten that one.
You might have a better handle on it than I. You should do a Let's Play.
I mean,
yeah.
Dead Horse beat.
You want to talk about beating a dead horse? Let's talk about Destiny this week.
Oh,
for the Destiny minute. I think we talked about this a little bit last week, though. But microtransactions in Destiny are now live. You can buy emotes in the game.
Tess is back.
Yeah, Tess Everest, voiced by Claudia Black, I want to say. Anyways, there are now 18 emotes available in game. as well as the new premium currency called Silver. Every character is awarded 400 silver to try out in buying emotes. Emotes either cost 200 or 500 apiece. The 500 emotes are the slow clap and the Carlton dance from, I believe it is the 1990s tour de force that is the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Yeah. Otherwise, there's a bunch of other emotes you can buy that are cool and fun.
I think
bro stuff and whatnot.
My biggest issue with the emotes is that they don't animate the faces.
They don't, but the only place you ever see your face is in the tower, and that's if you decide to turn your helmet off.
Yeah, but then what's, like, if that's a social area, I just feel like if they're going to do that, they should take that into consideration. That is a part of the game.
The vast majority of the emotes are labeled as taunts, and I believe that most people are going to end up using them in PvP.
Now, so this just seems to me as being as cynical as I possibly can with
Go for it.
Of course. That, you know, how they've constantly limited Destiny communication as much as possible, and now they're selling emotes with premium currency.
Well, they gave us voice chat, and then nobody used the voice chat. But
was the voice chat very good?
It's all right. Like, if you go into the party settings, at least on the PS4 side, the audio quality is notably better. But nobody ever uses it in PvP in terms of random groups. But you want to be cynical about something. If you wanted to buy all of these emotes, including the free currency that they give you, it's going to cost you a little more than $40. That's the price of the Destiny, the Taken King expansion on its own.
That sounds horrible.
But here's the thing: if rumors are true, Destiny is going to switch to a more free-to-play model where this content updates aren't going to be held behind a premium paywall. Instead, these aesthetic components will pay for them, and so that you don't get locked out of content. And if that's the case, then I'm all for it. That means I don't have to spend $60 on the next 3 expansion packs.
Yeah, if we get raids and story content for free, I'm still totally fine with this. If the microtransactions are limited to cosmetics, I'm fine with that too. There is an interesting wrinkle right now with the Tess Everest stuff, is that you can return emotes within, I think, 15 minutes of buying them. It's notable, though, that if you, on the return section, it says that consumables cannot be returned, which more or less confirms that there will be consumables offered up in the shop in the future. My guess is that they will probably end up being double XP boosts.
Spark of Light as well.
It's
already in the game.
When you're level capped, and it's really easy to get level capped, I don't see a reason why you would buy those. So.
I mean, Spark of Light, when you're done rolling your first character and you don't want to spend an eternity rolling your next 2 characters.
I suppose. I just don't think that I think that the leveling up process is relatively quick. But
have you leveled up from level 1 since Taken King?
I haven't.
I will tell you, I've been working on my Titan, and I worked on it for almost 2 weeks, and she's only 18.
Are you doing bounties?
I'm doing whatever I can. It takes a while.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I've been curious to do that, but at the same time, I've enjoyed having 3 maxed out characters and the opportunities that affords. So.
I did it mostly because I wanted to see what the new player experience was about, which led to an article that I wrote on our website.
You should check that out sometime. He has some words to say about it. There was some other minor patch stuff going on right now as well. Shot package was taken off of shotguns, so they're not as long-rangey. They're still a thing in the Crucible, though. Also, Iron Banner, a PvP mode where player levels matter and statistics are more taken into account than the typical PvP mode. That's going on this week right now. I've been playing it, and the Crucible environment is much more varied than it used to be, so that's a good thing. But that thing is still a grind if you want some of the best stuff at the end, like a cape that has a wolf head on it.
That golden thing that changes the color, it looks really nice, really swanky.
The shader?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes it look like a little statue.
So the other thing that's worth noting is that those things offer reputation boosts when you are playing in that mode, so that the next Iron Banner you can do things a little bit faster. So I'm going to keep messing around with that right now. And there's some other minor patch stuff as well. They rebalanced the way some currency and items drop, but it seems to be very minor for the most part. And that's Destiny, because we'll talk about that. They've been doing a really good job of having something happen every week, so shrug, I guess. Stays in the news. Who likes Overwatch? Who knows what Overwatch is, for that matter?
It's the new Pixar film by Blizzard, right?
That's right. It's got superheroes in it, and they superhero and shoot each other in the face.
That intro sequence was fucking beautiful, though.
I mean, any Blizzard cinematic for that point.
But that like evoked the sense of like Toy Story and stuff, like the Incredibles especially.
Mm-hmm.
So I really liked it.
But anyways,
Overwatch is a class/team-based shooter, right?
Very much
taking some inspirations from like the MOBA thing with abilities and supers.
Yeah, very much in the vein of Team Fortress 2 for the most part. Partly in the style, but also being. I don't believe that there are any pure deathmatch modes in the game. I think it's all objective based, and things are balanced around that. The beta for it, though, it got announced. It's going to be at the end of this month on October 27th.
Is it random lot or first come first serve?
I believe all their stuff that they've done has been random lot. So if you play any Blizzard products right now, if you have a Battle.net account, you can choose to opt into betas for Blizzard products, which includes Overwatch as well. They have said that it's going to be a very beta, like they are planning to do large system changes if need be in order to get the game feel right. And they will only have, I think, a few stress test weekends where they try to bring in lots of people, but otherwise it's going to be, like, if it's been anything like the other betas they've done, it's just going to be random. They said that they're not making beta entrants to be a promotional item for any of their things. Like, you can't pre-order anything to get into their beta.
So is there any word on how they're going to make money with it?
We have not yet been told if it is going to be a free-to-play game or if it's going to be an upfront purchase. I don't know what I would prefer, honestly, at this point. They've said that the beta itself is going to test with 18 characters and 7 maps, and they have not determined how long the beta is going to run.
18 characters for a beta?
I mean, that's all the ones they've announced so far.
That is no small amount of characters for a beta, though. Normally you just get a handful.
Like I said, I think they're trying to test the balance of everything that they have announced so far. They've been showing more and more characters pretty much every few weeks now as it's been going on. They all look really great, and they look like they play pretty uniquely as well, for that matter.
I can't wait for them to come out on Heroes of the Storm.
I think they said it's going to be a while before they do that, but
there's a chance.
It's true, yeah. I imagine they will at some point. Trey, you've seen some of the footage of this game, right?
Yeah, a little bit, not a whole lot though. I haven't been paying a lot of attention to it right now.
Mm-hmm.
It does remind me a lot of Team Fortress 2, and maybe that's part of the reason why I've played that a bunch. And while it's fun, I don't know. They're gonna have to do something different and interesting to pull me into that. So.
I'll admit that Blizzard is not necessarily an innovator anymore in this market. They do like to take already pre-existing ideas and put a lot of polish onto it and sort of more or less hone something to a fine mirror sheen. And I don't really have any problem with that per se, just because normally they do such a good job of putting their own spin on things. In your mind, would you prefer it to be a boxed product that launches at $40, $50, $60, or make it so that you purchase each individual hero you want to play, like a free-to-play version? What in your mind would be best?
That sounds horrible. I would definitely rather have something that allows me access to all of the primary characters right out of the box. I would always rather pay up front for most things. Free-to-play models are too easily abused, so I just don't trust them in general, and so I just prefer not to use them and receive them enacted whatsoever.
Miguel, do you think that there's a way they could possibly do maybe like a Dota 2 version where all the heroes are free, the game was free, and then you started paying for cosmetics?
The reason why I don't I feel like the game would be free to play because I don't think a game like that could survive in a purchase-only environment.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there isn't a huge IP behind it, so the name isn't going to bring in a lot of people. The company might, but I don't know. And also, I don't feel like they would have everyone be free because their other free-to-play games like Heroes of the Storm and Hearthstone don't have that same mechanic.
Mm-hmm. It's worth noting that Blizzard does a really good job of cross-promoting their products. My guess is that if you end up partaking in whatever purchase there is available with Overwatch, you will get some benefit in Hearthstone. You'll get some benefit in WoW.
You'll get a hat.
Mm-hmm.
They just take that from TF2 hats.
I mean, it's the same thing they're doing right now with StarCraft 2. You buy that game, you get access to the next hero that they're going to launch. So in Hearthstone, as well as some transmogs in Diablo 3. I think there's an avatar in Hearthstone, and then some pets in World of Warcraft. So, like I said, they're on top of that stuff in terms of trying to get the things out. I expect it to be pretty popular. Plus, I'm sure Activision will help to promote this as well, since they're all under the same umbrella. Miguel, you got some stuff here about Metal Gear Solid 5 and how wonderful it is.
It's not so much that it's wonderful. I haven't played the game, but Metal Gear Solid 5 is a relatively niche title in that your mainstream person will probably not purchase it or not know what it is. It is a huge game within the gaming community, but outside of that sphere, it's pretty obscure. I mean, Kojima makes the games pretty wild.
But you've got this news story here that so far it has made more money than Jurassic World and Age of Ultron combined.
Yeah, so MGS5 day one release, it earned $179 million USD, while Jurassic World and Avengers made $82 and $84.5 million respectively. Now, the thing is that movies generally make the brunt of their money over the entire weekend, not just a single day, like in games. And it's hard to make a comparable like metric for that because games in the United States are released on Tuesday. There isn't a weekend for it, and I thought that it was just an interesting number. Like another thing to go into the whole obscure game is that while MGS5 made 179 million, GTA 5 made 800 million, but that's also like everyone knows what GTA is.
Right, it's arguably one of the most popular game releases ever for that. No, I believe it might. Is that still in terms of games that have made the most money? I know that WoW is up there. I know that Black Ops is up there. I think Dungeon Fighters Online also has made an obscene amount of money as well.
Probably not in the US.
Not necessarily in the U.S., but still has been, like, if you go look up the numbers for that, somebody should. I was looking at some presentation stuff yesterday, and that was just on a slide that somebody was saying just, like, some of the most popular games ever made in terms of price.
But to later, like, extrapolate on this idea of the day one purchase for Metal Gear Solid 5, there was another article released that talks about pre-orders, in which pre-orders are up 24%. From last year, which means that more people are pre-ordering their games, which is kind of funny since everywhere you look, apparently from journalism sites or gaming media sites, everyone keeps saying, "Don't buy it. Have some sort of some advocacy for your rights and stuff. If you vote with your wallet, so on and so forth." But most people don't give a shit, and they're just wanting the game now. Which, I mean. This is also explaining why these companies are doing these pre-orders campaigns, these season passes. It's because people are buying them.
I mean, I'll admit I pre-ordered Metal Gear Solid 5 like a day or two before the game came out, just because I was going to try to preload it when I got home from work, or before I got home from work. I'll probably end up doing the same with Fallout 3 or Fallout 4. I've yet to have done that. I very seldomly pre-order games now. As it is. I think Bloodborne also this year I did as well. For me, it was all like pre-ordering for the most part is less about the pre-order bonuses, and way back in the day when it was worrying about is the store going to get enough copies of the physical media. That's the thing that's perplexing to me now is that you have digital storefronts where you don't have to worry about supply in the supply and demand part of the chain, and yet pre-orders are still rising.
Like the last game that I pre-ordered was Type 0, Final Fantasy Type 0, mostly because there was an incentive to getting it early, which was you get the demo to Final Fantasy 15.
Mm-hmm.
And
what was the last thing you pre-ordered? Out of curiosity.
What was the last thing I pre-ordered?
Evolve, I think, maybe?
Yeah, that was one thing. That was a horrible choice.
Evolve, didn't they announce DLC before they announced?
They announced a bunch of DLC.
When they first announced the game?
I pre-ordered it before I personally heard of any DLC. But yeah, they set that up to be a platform for DLC, so it wouldn't surprise me at all.
But
you also kickstarted a game recently.
Yeah, it's kind of a pre-order.
I did too.
So no, he didn't. He bought a leather jacket as well.
I did buy a jacket.
And he's gonna get a game with it at some point.
So at what point do you where does the definition get solidified between pre-ordering and kickstarting? And
well, I mean, the thing is, if you're kickstarting, that thing isn't going to exist if it doesn't.
That's not necessarily true. Shenmue 3 is going to exist regardless. You have this.
Some pre-orders are not. Some pre-orders won't.
And then you also have the Mighty Number 9 game thing that guy was trying to make. That game didn't reach its Kickstarter goal, but it got picked up also.
So at least from what I have seen so far with the history of Kickstarter, the idea of Kickstarters getting picked up or being done on games that are already going to ship is more a recent phenomenon. Traditionally, when I look back at the wave of Kickstarters getting started with the original Mighty Number 9 or with the Double Fine Adventure game, those were either sink or swim games that if they didn't garner enough interest, they weren't going to happen. But more of these, hey, we've done half the work and we're going to publish this product. We kind of want to see what else we can do with it. If you want to throw in some cash for a pre-order, that's more recent. That's Divinity 2. That's what was the rare game? That Banjo-Kazooie, but the bat and the ukulele, yeah, that was another notable one. That they had investors behind the scenes already.
I just brought that up because Kickstarter itself is this hodgepodge of ideas, and there are instances where pre-ordering and Kickstarter, there's a lot of blurred lines there.
Mm-hmm. There's been some indie devs I know that have criticized that these larger products are taking away from the spirit of Kickstarter, and their smaller devs are having trouble getting noticed now because of these larger, more, I guess I don't want to say put together, but just larger projects that have investors behind them.
Basically, I would say I wouldn't recommend doing a pre-order of from any AAA publisher, period. Just because, they've already got the money there. When it comes down to it, obviously each individual person is going to have their own series of games or specific games that they will pre-order on impulse, no matter what reason tells them. And that's going to happen, and that's fine. Just, for the most part, try to use your better judgment.
Is there any major publisher that is, aside from Microsoft and Sony and Square Enix, that has some sort of indie campaign thing?
Major publications that have indie campaigns.
Because Square Enix has a huge one in Japan, but I don't know about because Sony had this huge militant PlayStation Expo thing where they fucking just blew up everything and we're just like, indies out the ass.
I'm surprised Ubisoft hasn't tried something with this.
Well, Ubisoft kind of has with Valiant Hearts and Child of Light, but it wasn't so much indie games, but here giving a developer here's a pittance of money and make a game that you want with it.
It feels like what they did there is they developed their Ubi art engine and then said, hey, what can we do with this?
But I mean, what they said was for Child of Light, they gave the money or the director this money and they said make whatever game you want, and then Child of Light happened. So that kind of has a spirit of.
So you mentioned Square Enix before with the doing sort of this mention of Kickstarters. I haven't seen. I guess Sony teamed up with the Shenmue 3 thing and said they were going to be investor, but they haven't. Beyond that, they have their support of indie devs, so does Microsoft. But the utilization of Kickstarter by major AAA publishers is still sort of a relatively new thing that I suppose we'll probably see more of in the future.
I don't know. ever since the PS4 started coming around, like when they announced the indie support, I mean, you had No Man's Sky, you had Gone to the Rapture, you had Secret Ponchos, Don't
Cuphead. I want
Starve,
Cuphead to come out.
you have Darkest Dungeon. All these games are getting support from Sony,
Mm.
which I'm grateful for because that means that
But
compelled Microsoft to do the same thing.
sure, I like support of indie devs. I think is great. I mean, that's you look at the catalogs in the PS4 or the Xbox One, they are dwarfed by indie titles now as compared to the AAA. AAA titles have been a much. There have not been nearly as many as they've been last generation at this point, which is fine. When you were posing the question before, I thought you were talking about the idea of customers being able to throw in money up front and getting stretch goals and things of that nature, which, like I said, seems to be more Square Enix, the fund this project beforehand or it's not going to happen. But yeah, I don't. The future is wide and open, I guess, for that to be a thing. You want to keep moving on, I suppose?
I mean, do you have anything else to say?
Not really on this point, other than wait and see.
Yeah.
Colbert stuff with video games keeps happening.
So Colbert is becoming the internet's sweetheart if he wasn't already, right?
Sure.
Like every week he's had something related to video games. Which,
this one is about as fan servicey as you get out there.
yeah.
Symphony of the Goddess concert that's supported by Nintendo here, that just live orchestrations of Zelda themes there. I believe they're on tour right now in cross promotion with the Triforce Heroes game that's coming out on 3DS. And they showed up on his late show program, basically packed out his entire stage and had singers up on the wings to be able to pull this off, to do a 4-minute medley-ish of different Zelda music.
Yeah,
It was really
sweet.
It was really good. Yeah.
It was. It made me happy.
They made good utilization of those big giant screens in the back that always make it look like there's a city behind the speaker, but there never is really, of showing off Zelda footage. And yeah, this is about as mainstream nerdy, I guess, as you can get right now, and makes me really want to go see one of these things live. But we're going to put a link in the show description here for the YouTube video. You should absolutely check it out if you like good video game music.
I'm just gonna put it out. If Michael ever took me to Distant Worlds in Seattle, and he didn't propose to me, I would probably kill him.
Oh, it's not like he's behind that curtain now. I can hear you, right?
I mean, but like it'd be like the two best things.
Okay, gotcha.
But okay, so the only beef I have with the video is that she starts out with the normal like composer's baton, and then at the end she picks up the Wind Waker. And I was like, why didn't you do it with the Wind Waker? Like you should. That would have been perfect.
No, because if you start the thing like that, then you're gonna like change the wind direction in the room, and it's gonna bowl everybody over.
You're right.
But yeah, I'm curious to see what other. You know, it's gonna be next week. It's gonna be Phil Spencer is gonna be on there and just have like an interesting talk or something.
Gaming New will be on. Half-Life 3 announced. Boom.
Yeah,
there's so much speculation about Half-Life 3 now too.
Those things that are in the what was it? What was an update to? Was it Dota 2?
Dota 2. There in the source code there was references to an HL3 file.
Yeah,
there's a source code.
Yeah, no, there's a few in there. One of them was like Combine Pulse Turret and some other things.
And then some other publication ended up getting like something else got. Oh no, it was a storefront. They published that on one of the Steam devices that are being like the Steam PCs that are coming out. On the description it says ready for play for games such as Batman: Arkham Knight, The Witcher, Fallout 4, and Half-Life 3.
I feel like we're getting trolled here.
And I'm just like, it's beautiful. No, like because I'm in the camp that says this game will never come out because it will never be as good as people want it to be.
I can remember listening to a podcast way back when, just the proposal, the idea that all Steam needs to do is put that game on their storefront one day. Don't have to do any kind of promotional marketing. Just put it out there, done. Like, Don't spend any money on the promotional stuff. Just and people will find it, buy it, and it'll be the craziest thing ever.
Like the internet will shit itself marketing it for them.
Basically. Anyways, in relation to the real quick, something I totally forgot about and I wanted to put on here. GeekWire Summit, which I believe happens every year, as summits usually do. They had actually talked to Phil Spencer for about 30 minutes, talking about the challenge of turning around the Xbox from its like poisonous E3 presentation initially, how it won't play youth games and whatnot, and just sort of the uphill battle they've had to climb, and even directly asking outright if they ever think that they can beat the PS4 this generation. And it is a very good interview. Phil Spencer is just very candid and really opens up to the audience. It is absolutely worth your time watching it. Should put that into the show description stuff as well. He's a very interesting personality to hear about this kind of stuff.
He's also handsome.
Sure. But just like the still notion today that survives that the Xbox One will not play used games, that still exists, and that how your first impression matters so much is sort of incredible.
I have no sympathy, none.
Oh, I've got a little bit now.
They made their bed. They get to sleep in it.
No,
well, I mean,
it was sort of the previous regime. Like Don Matrick does not work at Microsoft anymore. Hell, it doesn't even work at Zynga anymore, for that matter.
It reminds me a lot of the last generation, where when the PS3 got released at $600,
$599 US, get a second job.
That
Also,
basically pissed people off as well. But it's not to say that they can't come back, because by the end of the last generation, the PS3 outsold the Xbox 360. So, I mean, it's not like
tail end though.
Also, it's still the same company. Just because they got rid of a couple of people doesn't mean that at least half of the people who made that original decision aren't still there. It's not completely changed. It's just decided to backtrack on a couple of things.
Well, I think it's more than a couple things. They've been making really good faith efforts into trying to endear back into the hands of gamers. The de-emphasis on the Kinect peripheral, for example, the announcement of backwards compatibility, has all been changes that I think have made the console much more attractive to me and really made me want to get one. I enjoy my PS4. I wish there was more games to play on it, and it does seem like they have a larger library of games to play.
Yeah, and that's a thing, but you've already hurt your image and your company's image when you've already made these statements that were outright anti-consumer, and people don't trust you as much anymore, and that's something that you just have to be able to deal with or not make those kind of decisions to try to dick people over.
Well, obviously, if you could go back in time, and hindsight being 2020, you would not make these decisions at all. It's very telltale of when they announced it. What were they thinking when they went to the stage that there was not going to be any kind of pushback, and that all Sony had to do was just say, not going to do that, and not going to do that. Okay, we're good. We're going to win this. And it's seeing how you try to recover from what the previous target message was of being such what was going to be a content delivery box for Microsoft and turning it back into an actual game console. Just like TV integration of being such a big selling feature to the point you have an HDMI in on the box itself it's the perfect example of how out of touch they were. Seeing how they can try to turn this around, that's the interesting story. There's going to be a book written about this, and I want to read it someday, but for now, it's interesting to watch it happen. So, yeah, I don't know. Also, PS4 is getting a $50 price cut, over in the States.
So when you mentioned that the Xbox One has more games, I was like, I'm not sure. Like, lately, people have been talking about holiday exclusives for this year. But not to say that Wikipedia is the end-all be-all factual resource that essayists would like it to be. But Wikipedia says that Xbox One has 40 exclusives now out and now on the horizon, while PS4 has 83. Microsoft exclusives are 9. PS4 Sony exclusive are 98. Console exclusives and/or time is 164 over 19 for PS4 versus 77 over 27 for Xbox One. And in
It might
total, the
have-
Xbox One has 493, while the PS4 has 787.
It might have more, but I'm just saying the ones that it does have right now are the ones that are more interesting to me, at least. But that's just my perspective at the moment. So, I don't know. Halo 5 looks good. I kind of want to play it, but like I said before, the 300, like PS4 being down to 350 seems like this is something we were talking about a few weeks ago as the price cut over in Japan, but it's translating over now into the US, and I think they're also doing a 1 terabyte PS4 now for the back at the original price. So the 500 gig ones are 350, but this is, I think, this is about the point in the console generation where we start seeing price slashes, right?
2
Give or
years
take a few
later.
months, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a $50 price cut, which is not aggressive or defensive. It's natural. Like this makes me feel that maybe they're working on a new iteration.
No, they've said that there is a new iteration. That
Well,
has,
I mean, it has like, but I'm talking a new form factor and
you're
stuff.
talking, yeah, like an actual redesign of the box itself.
It couldn't possibly be a slim model because it's already so skinny.
Yeah, the other like small features I've noted that I've changed with the newer model of PS4 is the buttons on the front are actual clickable buttons as opposed to the sensors. Hey, the sensors on the front are annoying on the PS4.
No, that sounds better to me.
Are they?
Having an actual mechanical analog control feature is better for me.
Those sensor buttons, they can fire off incorrectly depending on what surface you have to put them on. I've had times when I've been playing Destiny, because it's one of the 3 games I own for the system, and it has ejected the disc in the middle of play, and that just shuts the game down. So
I've
thanks,
never
guys.
had that.
Oh,
issue.
I've had it happen, and it will just keep ejecting the disc. I have to completely depower the system and turn it back on. Also, the PS4 wobbles, so maybe they'll fix that too.
My only issue, but those stability updates.
Oh, stability updates, yeah.
My only issue with my PS4 is that I think it has a weak Bluetooth.
I think the controls are also not great either. By my PS4 controller now, the left thumbstick, something about the sister board on the controller itself does not register up inputs as well, so I've had to move to the other one. But the triggers on my first controller aren't great, so I've had to flip the triggers now. So I shoot with L1 and R1 in Destiny. So
Neither of my controllers. The only thing that I've had an issue with is the thumb pads on these little buttons.
mm-hmm.
But I bought these covers that make them better. Like they're easier to touch with your fingers.
I don't know.
And
I've heard that the Xbox One controller is better than the PS. Like
the
I
Pro
like
though.
The Pro looks. That's made me wonder. I know that thing is $150. At the same time, I game a lot, and the idea of perhaps something that I am using so many hours in my week, why not get the best version of that?
I don't know. Like I feel like that controller practically, in any practical sense, is only a good purchase for people who play an exorbitant amount of games, like people who play competitive.
For those back.
Like for the price and for the functionality.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree that I think the price point is still a little bit too high for just your average gaming person, but I play a lot of different games where I would rather play it on the controller for one reason or another, usually just general gameplay, but I could use a couple of extra buttons, and it would help me immensely. So,
yeah, I can think like modding Fallout 3, for example. A lot of games will throw in an extra sprint function right now, for example, and that's just on the default controller, no extra buttons to use. So that's why you end up playing with a keyboard. Then I can say like playing with a good mouse, like I'll end up, if there's a mouse on sale that, like I got this, I can't really even see it right now. I think it's a Snapdragon or whatever for like $15 when it's typically 60.
Are we going to show our mice to each other, guys?
There you go.
You
But it's got, how many buttons? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 buttons. Good scroll wheel. Nice DPI switch. And what's Trey using?
mine is a regular old
Logitech
mouse.
Mine, I have the G600. It's the MMO mouse. It has 12 buttons on the side, so it's kind of like the Razer Naga.
Yeah, very similar to that.
I've done both, but the thing about this is that the buttons are indented, so that it's easier to register where your thumb is on each button.
And do you actually use the side number pad for when you're playing Final Fantasy?
I use it when I'm playing HOTS. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
If I'm so used to this being a numpad that sometimes I will just write in a dock, just use those buttons.
Okay.
Also, it's compatible with the PS4.
Yeah.
Fully compatible with the PS4, so.
There's a lot of stuff right now in terms of mouse and keyboard things that are. But, yeah. I think that covers it for most of our new stuff right now. So, let's get to a regularly scheduled segment that I like to call Steam RNG.
Steam RNG! The best time of the week.
You really look forward to this, huh?
I love it. I love having a reason to play these games that I bought.
Okay. So, for people that are just joining us right now, Steam RNG is a regular segment where we go back into our vastly huge, large, turgid game libraries and figure out what we've played, haven't played, talk about the games, where we got them, little details, factoids, etc.
I don't know about talking about the size of the size of my library is only average at best.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Like whenever I get excited, it seems that my game library gets larger. So,
have you had it happen where you go to buy something and then you already own it?
Yeah, that happens a lot on Steam sales. I'm like, I should. Oh man, this is a great game. Oh wait, I guess I already own it. Oh, that says something about me. And looking at like the Humble Bundle this week, there's actually a few things on there I want, but the vast majority I already own. So, I don't know yet. It's a good Capcom bundle though. It's got DMC on there, so. But anyways, yeah, we're going to use a totally legit number generator right now. We're going to go ahead and start with Miguel since he's so excited.
Oh, yes.
Got his custom game list here in front of me. Going to throw in a few coins and start rolling. Hopefully he will not stop me in the middle of it and just tell me when.
Ding, ding. Stop.
Titan Attacks on the PS4.
That was a PlayStation Plus game. And for like 3 months ago, I think. And okay. I have no earthly idea what it's about.
Oh.
So
it's by Puppy
you got
Games,
me.
Apparently.
It looks like it kind of reminds me of what was that game? Earth Defense?
Like EDF when you're fighting bugs and whatnot.
Where you're just this little tank on the ground, and you're shooting up into the sky, and they're shooting back down.
Missile Command?
Missile Command. That sounds
right.
No,
you're thinking of Space Invaders. This does look a lot like Space Invaders.
Yeah, Space Invaders. Titan Attacks looks a lot like Space Invaders.
So this game was first released on February 3rd, 2012. Came out on Mac, PlayStation 3, Nintendo 3DS, eShop, the Vita. It's out on Linux.
From what I can tell, this game looks like a combination of... What's that game? No, well, not Galaga. What was it?
Space Invaders?
Space Invaders with a shmup.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like you just upgrade your little tank at the bottom and, yeah, take out Space Invaders. Looks pretty simple, but, yeah. So I'm curious to... I've never seen this game at all played before. I'm curious to see your little Steam RNG segment and how it ends up going. But to say, yeah, probably one of the shorter ones.
You know how much time I've spent playing this game?
Exactly 0, I'm going to assume.
I didn't even install it.
Wonderful. And so I'm going to take a guess that you probably have also not beaten it since you have not...
No, I've beaten it. I just never played it.
Okay, gotcha. We need to go into Trey's profile right now. We're just going to probably end up start playing your games at some point, Trey, just because even on holiday we can't get you to play games. So, throw in some coins here. Start a rolling. Whenever you say stop, which you like to do very soon, and not torture me, we'll go ahead and stop and see what you get.
So what you been playing, Kevin?
Video games.
With my heart.
Stop. Okay. Portal 2.
What's
Portal
that?
2. Yeah.
I've never heard of that before. It has a sequel?
Yeah, man.
Yes. Portal 2 is pretty fun. It's, obviously a continuation for the first game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much more to say about it. Puzzle, platforming game.
What can you say that has not already been said a myriad of times in 1,000 different ways?
I guess
is
what
live.
This actually, Portal 2 has a unique characteristic in that it's one of the few games that is cross-playable on PC and PS3.
interesting.
That is a thing. The co-op, I haven't gotten a chance to play actually, so I
DJ and I
can't tell you
played
about
through
that.
all the co-op, and it's really great. Should do some of that. That would
It
be
is. It is actually pretty neat if you do really actually pay attention to the lore and storyline that's going on in those games.
good.
In that it gives you an idea of like who Gladys really is and what is the purpose of that factory you're in. So in that regard, pretty neat.
Also has Cave Johnson, played by J.K. Simmons, who's fantastic.
Yes.
And then Wheatley, played by Stephen Merchant, who is also fantastic.
The man to see life's manager.
What was the year that this came out? April 19th, 2011.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's gotten level creator stuff, some unofficial expansion things, like people really latched onto it. I mean, I think the popular sentiment still is that the original Portal is a better game, but it is still a really good game. I also had a
Yeah,
really...
this is a worthy follow-up.
Hmm?
I'd say it's a worthy follow-up.
Yes, absolutely.
But is it like from what I hear from people,
Mhm.
whenever they say that, it feels like they say that mostly because Portal is their baby. Portal is the game that they fell in love with, all I hear is from when people tell me it's that Portal has less of a story. Portal 2 has more of a story. It has more of a good story, but it's just not Portal.
So for me, the narrative was always, because everybody that I know really experienced the original Portal when it came with the orange box, which was Valve's sort of not only its foray into doing like a large value package of a game, of a bunch of games that they own, but also bringing Half-Life 2 to PlayStation 3 and to Xbox 360. In that package, you got to play, like I said, Half-Life 2 with both of its episodes, a stripped-down version of Team Fortress 2, which at the time was still a pretty big deal, and then it was like, oh, and this extra bonus thing of Portal. And it turned out that Portal was the best thing in that entire package because it was so damn funny, but it was also really laser-focused in my mind. It was a 2-hour experience. It did not overstay its welcome. The puzzles were just complicated enough that you got those eureka moments like at a really regular pace to me. So while most of that stuff makes the jump to Portal 2, like my main criticism is that game goes on for just a bit too long. It's in a 3-act structure, and it really, like, I had to take a break between some of the puzzles. It's not that not that it makes my brain hurt, but it just fatigue.
I didn't play the first Portal all the way through, and
so good.
I didn't play the second one all the way through in one sitting either. But that was fine for me. That's how I normally play games. I don't play for more than like 2 hours at a time, and even then that depends on like, do I get stuck on something? Because in the first Portal I got stuck on a bunch of puzzles. So that's not really my thing most of the time.
No, that's just my perspective anyway. But
Did you hear the new Lego? I mean,
it has Portal in it, yeah.
No, it has a new Portal song.
Oh, I haven't heard the new Portal song yet.
Yeah, it's called "You Wouldn't Know," and it's actually by Gladys, and it's the third Portal song.
Interesting.
Official.
Yeah, I should take a look at just the Lego playthrough set of the Portal things for that. Yeah, you've got about 10 hours on record. Did you end up beating Portal 2?
Yeah, I beat the main game.
It's got the best payoff with the moon at the end. That's about all I can say. I mean, unless you see it coming a mile away, but I don't know. That game has been out for 4 years now. So
yeah, I mean, like,
I don't know. What do you guys? What's your statute of limitations on spoilers at this point?
It depends on the media we're talking about.
Okay. So TV shows. How long do you wait before you start talking about
TV shows? I will not try to spoiler. Like, I will ask if spoilers are okay, but I generally will not spoil something if within 2 seasons.
2 seasons, okay.
Yeah. So if we're on season 3, I'll talk about season 1 with no restriction. But because I just feel like most of the time, people are like working on season 2,
Mm-hmm.
and then season 3 is already coming out every week or so.
Okay.
For me, I just tend to try to not talk about storyline points with most things unless I know someone's already seen something.
Mm-hmm.
However, when it comes right down to it, I don't care very much about spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
I just do it for other people's sake.
Gotcha.
I will never spoil a novel.
Okay.
Because that's
So
like,
you'll never tell anybody that Snape kills Dumbledore?
my issue, like I was very frivolous and whatever about telling spoilers for any kind of content before, but then I was reading Ender's Game, and my friend Kyle tells me the twist at the end, and then I thought I didn't care. I just read it, and
But
then
it
I was
changed
like,
how you read it?
yeah, and so I read it, and I was like, if I hadn't known that, I would have had it would have been so much better if I didn't know that. Like that twist was like the whole ending of that movie. Fucking book. I've never seen the movie.
The movie's not... I'm not a big fan of
It's
it.
extremely very not good, apparently.
Well, the realism of what's going on at the end there kind of belays the plot twist to like it's so not a twist at that point.
But so two reasons why I never went to go watch the movie is because one, Orson Scott Card is anti-gay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which is weird since we live in the city that he lives in.
Huh.
Yeah, he lives in Greensboro.
I did not know that.
And the second thing is that the spoiler I was talking about is in the trailer for the movie.
Yeah.
Like they say it in the trailer, and I'm just like, are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest part of the novel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's a whole nother can of worms about supporting creators that might, and like, can you divorce the creator from the art that if they are anti-LB? What's the acronym now at this point?
LGBT.
LGBT.
I mean that's the
lettuce tomato sandwich.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate that.
I'm sorry, but it's just wasn't there a Q in there at some point?
It's it's SLGBTQ. But everyone just says LGBT. Because
Okay.
you have transgender, transsexual, straight allies, gay, lesbian, bisexual. Then you have like pansexual, queer.
I'm telling you what you have is a branding problem right now.
Well, I mean, so here's one of the. As a brief
I guess we're gonna
aside-
get into this, huh?
as a brief
This is
aside-
a really big topic we're about to open up here.
No. I just want to say a brief aside is people lump all these people into one community, and so people are always asking me about lesbians, and I'm just like, I am the furthest you can get from a lesbian.
That's about like asking me about lesbians. It's pretty much the same thing because
At least
being
we
that,
have something in common.
yes, this is true, but it's generally the fact that neither of us are actually those specific things. There's no way that we could have a full, true understanding of it.
This is true. We do not prescribe to the ideas and the identity of this like little social group, but the fact that I like men, and I mean, if you didn't know, I like men.
I mean, yeah.
Oh,
And
really?
then-
what a shock.
I mean,
I
and
still
then
need- I still
women
need to
like
do
women,
my-
so we're both gay, therefore we must be exactly the same.
Nah.
And I'm just like,
As interesting as this topic is, and the fact that our viewer count seems to be going up as we talk about this, we need to go on to my last Steam RNGs thing. So
whatever.
whatever. Yeah.
I mean, I have read really interesting LGBT-related articles on gaming. Like, Bayonetta is basically a gay idol.
Okay.
Like she is basically like people. That game is thriving in the gay community, in the gay male community. So,
I feel like if this was not the end of the show, I would be fascinated talking about this topic.
Yeah.
And definitely something we should bring up another time. So.
but we talk about stuff.
We apparently I don't know if this is facetious or not, but Michael wanted to put a spoiler alert for something we were talking about. I'm going to assume the fact that you're gay. So We hadn't come to that plot twist yet.
I hope Michael doesn't find out.
Oh no. Anyways, let's throw in some coins in for me. Do some Steam RNG stuff. Somebody please call stop so we can stop this podcast.
Stop the podcast.
I got Wolfenstein: The Old Blood. Huh? I didn't know I owned this, but apparently I do. So that's cool.
And this is why Steam RNG is beautiful.
So, Wolfenstein: The Old Blood is a DLC follow-up to Wolfenstein: The New Order, which came out last year. I want to say 5/21.
Pretty darn good.
It was pretty darn good. It looked like it was just going to be a regular good old shoot 'em up time against the Nazis. But the nice thing about that is it does this alternate history thing where what if the Nazis won World War II, and then suddenly you're waking up from a coma in the 1960s, 1970s, and you're now Nazis rule the world. Hell, they've established a space base on the moon. And then you have it like leaking out into all sorts of parts of culture. Like you have a Beatles song being sung in German, since now German is like the language that everybody speaks. But
the lingua franca is the term.
That is the term. I know that too, also because of Metal Gear. But anyways, so you play as BJ Blazkowicz and you go on freedom fighter sort of campaign. It reminded me a lot of Half-Life 2, actually, of being like the underground resistance against this overwhelming force. The game looks great. Blazkowicz has a surprisingly large amount of pathos for a character that was just notable for looking left and looking right and then getting shot by Nazis back in the MS-DOS days. But that's the New Order. The Old Blood is a prequel to that story-wise and takes place during the World War II at the time of the first Wolfenstein 3D game. Things that are notable as well is that it has really good shooting. It plays really fast, like old first-person shooters, but it also has a really simple but effective stealth gameplay system, where most fights you can approach in stealth, and then you can make the transition to dual-wielding assault rifles, if that's your play style, pretty seamlessly if it comes down to that. I believe this was put out by, I want to say, was it Machine Games?
That game sounds really, really... Well, that DLC, I guess I should say, or expansion, it sounds really, really bleak. Because, I mean, in all reality, you know what happens.
Kind of. I mean, it's more because you're going to infiltrate to get stuff about things that lead up to the first game. There are some things they throw in there that are callbacks to the first game or callbacks to tropes in... Spoilers, it's got Nazi zombies in it, like, in the story. So, yeah. It's also interesting to note that this was going to originally be 2 DLCs, but then they just sort of bundled it together as one, and it sort of flows, I think, a little bit better. But, yeah, I haven't played the prequel stuff for this, so I'm gonna take a look at it. I really liked the original, or the New Order Wolfenstein. We have a review of it on the site. Both me and DJ wrote about it. It was a really surprising game, and it's totally worth your time. Yeah, so that's Steam RNG for this week. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Does anybody have any little extra bits they want to throw into the end of the show right now, or?
Have I not done enough?
No, I mean, I'm always happy to hear from you, Miguel. It's just we had to throw it into the end of the show.
I mean, where else? I save everything to the last second.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Best for last. Us gays and our fashionable punctuality with everything.
Yeah, that's why I have you on the show. Clearly. Trey, anything from you?
Nothing I can think of off the top of my head right at this moment in time. Still waiting to hear on the SAG-AFTRA vote on if they're going to actually strike or not. So.
Yeah, just that we know that's on the table at the moment. Okay, so for more news and articles related to the podcast, please check out pixelloadout.blogspot.com. On YouTube, you can search Pixel Loadout or click on the subscribe button below if you're watching the stream or archive. Audio-only versions of the podcast can also be found on iTunes and Stitcher. Just search Pixel Loadout Podcast. Our intro music is done by Kevin McLeod. You can find more of his work at incompetech.com. Our outro music is done by Macross8299. Check out some of his stuff at soundcloud.com/Macross-82-99. Our executive producer is Mike Brothers. Finally, if you want to get in contact with us, share your questions, comments, concerns, email us at pixelloadout@gmail.com. We actually got an email recently.
Really?
I believe. I want to see if I can pull it up real quick. I remember it being a really important message, very pertinent to what we were doing. Oh, yes, here we go. This is from a guy named Mike. He says, "Good day, gentlemen. I have a question for you. When is Trey finally going to do a live stream? Sincerely, a random person you don't know." That's right. That's what it was. Yeah.
Hold on. I'm going to type the answer to this in the chat.
Okay.
Over here for them to see, because I think this person might be watching. Maybe.
No, he says.
I assume they sent us an email. They have to be watching, right?
Yeah. So he said it's a guy we don't know, but it's a good question, Trey. When are you going to stream?
When Half-Life 3 comes out.
Oh, okay, gotcha. For people who can't listen on the radio, he says when he feels like it. So we'll see. There's some hope.
That's to some extent. I mean, in all reality, yes, I do have classes that I have to stay forward and worry about. I'm not doing so well in my Japanese class, so I do have to buckle down on that a lot more than I would normally.
So what you're saying is we need to buy you a bunch of visual novels so you can practice your Japanese.
No.
A bunch of H games so you can practice your Japanese.
No.
No. Okay.
I don't want any part of that. I don't want any visual novels whatsoever. And hentai games, I can find those on my own if I feel in the mood for that. So, good on that. Thanks. So.
Okay. Whatever you say. But anyways, for Pixel Loadout, I'm Kevin Harrison.
I'm Trey Fuqua.
And I'm Miguel Torres.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.